Last-minute dispute between the government and Houthi militia cancels the first commercial flight in years to Sana'a airport. Houthi militia continues to violate the UN truce on different fronts. A Saleh Charity Foundation distributes humanitarian aid for displaced people in Al Jawf Governorate. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English News with me, Shaz Abdelbey. The UN envoy Hans Grunberg met with the Jordanian Foreign Minister Ayman al-Safadi today in Amman. They discussed the efforts to continue commercial flights from Sana'a airport, and Grunberg thanked Jordan for its support in that regard. A dispute between the Yemeni government and Houthi militia over details of the truce led to the cancellation of the first scheduled flight out of Sana'a Sunday. The flight was set to fly to the Jordanian capital, Amman. This report has more details.
The first scheduled flight out of Sana'a was delayed on Sunday due to a dispute between Yemen's government and Iran-backed Houthi militants over the parameters of a 2-month ceasefire agreement. The government accused the Houthis of violating the ceasefire by attempting to board passengers whose identities could not be verified. It claimed that they were in possession of forged passports. According to Muammar al-Aryani, the country's information minister, the flight to Amman, Jordan was cancelled because some passengers had been granted passports by the Iran-backed Houthi militia. In March 2017, the Yemeni government stated that it does not accept papers provided by the Houthis. In a tweet, al-Aryani added that while 104 passengers had government-issued passports, 60 had unreliable passports provided by the Houthis. He cited reports that stated that the Houthis planned to use planes to sneak out hundreds of their top leaders and professionals from Iran's Revolutionary Guards and Lebanon's Hezbollah party. He urged the international community, the United Nations, and UN envoy Hans Grunberg to put pressure on the Houthis to stop interfering in the humanitarian situation and to stop holding civilians in regions under their control hostage. The Houthis, for their part, called the refusal to operate the flight a breach of the truce. The warring parties agreed to operate 2 commercial flights a week to and from Sana'a to Jordan and Egypt as part of a truce that began at the start of the holy month of Ramadan. The UN Special Envoy for Yemen, Hans Grunberg, urged both parties to work constructively with the UN to resolve the issues that had caused the flight's delay. The truce is meant to benefit civilians through reducing violence, making fuel available, and improving their freedom of movement to, from, and within their country, he said on Twitter. In addition to the flights, the truce included allowing 18 ships delivering gasoline into the Houthi-controlled port of Hodeidah. The parties have yet to meet to discuss the reopening of roads near Taiz and other governorates as part of the truce. The government accused the Houthis of delaying the meeting by failing to send representatives from their delegation to the UN envoy office, where the meeting was scheduled to take place. The ceasefire has resulted in a reduction of land and air combat. However, the terms of the truce had been breached almost daily, particularly in the government-held central city of Ma'rib, which the Houthis have been attempting to conquer for over a year.
Omani delegation discussed with the Houthi rebels in the capital Sana'a chances of the current truce that was reached with the government earlier this month. Both sides discussed with the Houthi negotiators the current issues in Yemen and the political track. They stressed in this regard to fully implement the brokered truce. The Omani team reached Sana'a on Friday and facilitated the release of 14 foreign prisoners by the militia. The Yemeni government called upon the international community to pressure Houthi militia and make it abide by the UN brokered truce. This report has more details.
The truce in Yemen came as a last chance for a needed calm after the country was ravaged by a ruthless 7-year war. The truce, called for at the start of this month, has now held for 3 weeks. The announced truce failed in the first real test after the cancellation of a planned flight from Sana'a airport to the Jordanian capital Amman. The flight would have been the first since operation in the airport was halted for 6 years. The Presidential Leadership Council held a meeting headed by Rashad al-Alimi to discuss the Houthi block of the first flight from Sana'a International Airport. The PLC held the rebels responsible for aggravating the suffering of Yemenis by fabricating justifications aimed at evading the truce and thwarting the peace process. The PLC renewed its eagerness to do everything that would alleviate the human suffering of Yemenis. For its part, the Yemeni government expressed its regret that the Houthi militia closed all tickets outlets and provided tickets with passports issued by the militia. The government repeated that it had announced since March 2017 that any travel documents issued by the Houthis are invalid. The United Nations envoy to Yemen, Hans Grunberg, expressed his concern over the cancellation of the first commercial flight from Sana'a. Grunberg urged the parties to work constructively with him and his office to find a solution that allows the flights to resume as planned. Indeed, the Houthis used a previous United Nations brokered pause in fighting back in 2018 around Hodeidah for their advantage. The Houthi militia is violating the truce day by day, according to experts. The joint forces record daily Houthi violations of the truce on the western coast of Yemen in both the southern fronts of Hodeidah and in Taiz. Houthis attempt to infiltrate and target residential villages and military sites. They also try to set up new fortifications. And Al-Dali' and Ma'rib military sources said the militia targeted separate sectors in the governorates and tried to infiltrate some positions. On these facts, inking a truce with Houthis will face a number of challenges if it comes to reality.
For its part, the United States expressed its disappointment with the cancellation of the first commercial flight from Sana'a International Airport. U.S. Envoy to Yemen Tim Linder King urged the parties to work together to continue flights as soon as possible and maintain their commitment to the truce for the sake of Yemenis. To have more insights on the challenges facing the UN truce, joining me now from Los Angeles, Fernando Carvajal, former member of the panel of experts in Yemen and founder of Carvajal Consulting Group. Nice to have you with us, Mr. Fernando.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
First of all, with the dispute between the Yemeni government and Houthi militias over details that led to the cancellation of the first scheduled flight to Sana'a International Airport, can we say that was a real blow to the UN truce?
Well, we have to separate between the confidence building measures and the actual truce, the actual ceasefire. So the Houthis, as part of the confidence building measures, demanded lifting of the restrictions on Hodeidah seaport and the Red Sea and the start of flights out of Sana'a. So these are details that should contribute to a sustainable ceasefire. But as your report pointed out, the Houthis on the battlefield are the ones violating the accord, the agreement. The flights into and out of Sana'a were sort of olive branches from the government, the PLC and the coalition. And they're definitely obstacles, but the main violations, the main point that we need to focus on is what's going on across battlefronts in Ma'rib, Adalah, Taiz, and Hodeidah, as you pointed out.
Now the Houthi militias have been violating the truce on ground since day one of announcement, either in Ma'rib or in the west coast, and more than 2,000 field breaches have been confirmed so far. Don't you think the Houthis make use of the truce as a respite to start another round of escalation?
Yes, from day one, the government, Foreign Minister Ahmed bin Mubarak pointed out how intelligence showed Houthi troops moving equipment and personnel across southern Ma'rib, for example. We also see the movement of troops in Hajjah, in areas of Hajjah. So definitely, as your report pointed out, we see the similarities from 2018 when then UN envoy Martin Griffiths hosted the talks in Stockholm, Sweden. During this period, the Houthis used that ceasefire, let's say, to mobilize and redeploy troops that then later on facilitated a tremendous advance, territorial gains from eastern Sada to Al Jaw and into Marib, where they are today.
Last point, if you may, are you personally optimistic that the truce is going to hold, especially when there is no clear monitoring mechanism to ensure that warring parties stick to the truce?
That is the sticker. That is the stickler there. The monitoring, the lack of monitors, this ceasefire that was called for by the UN envoy and supported by the coalition and the GCC lacked that aspect, as did the ceasefire in 2018. There are no monitoring mechanisms, and what we've seen over the last week in particular is Houthis trying to leverage their gains and their movement through public campaigns that are mainly targeting anti-war activists in the West to paint a negative image of the government now under Dr. Rashad al-Alimi. But when we know on the ground, it's the Houthis themselves that are violating. So there is more needed. This is supposed to be a 2-month-long ceasefire that the UN envoy called for. There is a lot more to be seen. As your report called, one of the main issues, the main obstacles getting in the way of these flights from Sana'a are the documents for the travelers. The Houthis were requested, as far as I understand from the government, they were required to submit a passenger manifest with a list of names of passengers that would be leaving Sana'a. And that is one of the main things was the passport, that every passenger had to have a valid passport. And as you pointed out, since 2017, the Yemeni government has declared any passport issued in Sana'a as not valid. It would be illegal for Yemenia to transport individuals without valid documentation into another country like Jordan, where that would cause tremendous problems upon landing in Amman for the Yemeni government, not for the Jordanian government, not just for Yemen.
But do you think there is a chance to actually stop them from their violations, especially that they recently they had violations in Ma'rib, and they canceled the flights in Sana'a recently. So do you think they could actually be stopped from these violations?
If we look at Houthi behavior over the last 7 years of the war, we can expect the Houthis to hit back pretty soon. We can expect the Houthis to react in a negative way to this particular confidence building measure that has not been fulfilled at the moment. We hope that there is a flight out of Sana'a soon this week. But what we expect from Houthi tactics, they have to show something different. What we can expect is definitely escalation in Ma'rib at least, because we know that they've lost a lot of ground in Ma'rib. We know that they continue to aim at taking control of the city of Ma'rib because they need the government to lose their last foothold in the north, and they need that flow of oil, unobstructed flow of oil, as they call it, because of their profits. That is one of the things. They are looking, the flow of oil from Hodeidah and the flow of oil from the east in Ma'rib is all about Houthi profits.
But they're violating the truce. They violated the truce by stopping the commercial flights from Sana'a on Sunday and the Ma'rib violations that happened recently. Why aren't they stopped?
Right. I mean, this is the problem with the U.S. envoy and the UN envoy Hans Grunberg, that their public comments are very broad with regard to the violation and regard to the flights. I think that if the UN envoy and the US envoy are really interested in the ceasefire to move forward and last the whole 2 months and produce something positive like talks between the Yemeni government and the Houthis, they need to be upfront and blunt with the Houthis in public and ask the Houthis to adhere to the rules of the flights, that the individuals, the passenger manifest needs to continue, and that they need to halt all their military operations and movements in Ma'rib in order to build confidence between the parties.
Fernando, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
The Norwegian Refugee Council documented some Yemeni people's reactions over the UN-brokered truce. The last-minute cancellation yesterday of the first commercial flight out of Sana'a airport was seen as a massive disappointment for many Yemenis.
بصراحة عشنا 7 سنين عقاف لا قدرنا نواكب الأسعار ولا قدرنا نواكب الحياة ولا متطلباتها ولا فنتمنى إنه هذه الهدنة تكون بعدها يعني تجيب أشياء إيجابية للوطن وللمواطن نفسه.
بالنسبة للهدنة يعني في بادرة خير بالنسبة إنه نزلت العملة ونزول ما شاء الله يعني غير طبيعي، يعني نزول مرة قوي. نتمنى إن تستقر الأسعار زي ما هي والهدنة تستمر وإن شاء الله بإذن الله يواصلوا على هذه الهدنة وتكون هدنة سلام دائما إن شاء الله وبدون حرب ما نشتي شيء.
بعد إعلان الهدنة بدأنا نشعر إنه هناك في أمل، إنما بسبب تراكمات الفترة الماضية اتفاق وراء اتفاق وراء اتفاق في نوع من عدم الاطمئنان التام، إنما لدينا أمل في إن شاء الله أن يكون هذه المرة جادين صادقين في الخروج بالبلاد.
Masan project for demining said it removed 1,550 Houthi mines during the last week. The project said that the total number of mines cleared since its operation amounted to more than 334,000 mines and explosive devices. A Saleh Charity Foundation continues efforts to reach out displaced people through its cash assistance program. This report tracks the distribution process in Al Jawf Governorate.
Along the empty quarter desert from El Wadi'a to El Abar to El Rayyan Desert, where the IDPs of El Jawf Governorate were dispersed, the humanitarian aid project provided by El Saleh Social Development Foundation reaches deep into the desert to provide humanitarian aid to the displaced people.
We came today to Al Rayyan Desert in Al Jawf. The organization's assistance came in a very critical time, while people are in severe need and suffering in the district, especially during the month of Ramadan. We call on all organizations to unite together and follow a Saleh path to help people in need, as Yemeni citizens are having a really hard time during war and displacement, and the situation keeps deteriorating.
Long distances were taken and huge efforts were made by the organizers of El Saleh Foundation project to deliver aid to the displaced people in El Jawf, to those who were forgotten by relief organizations. El Saleh project was the first project to reach the depth of the desert without regard to the hardship of the road and the heat of the sun, in order to alleviate the bitterness of displacement experienced by the displaced people there.
We live here in Al Rayyan. We were displaced from Al Jawf Governorate. We want to thank Al Saleh Charity Foundation and all its team for the assistance they are providing. We thank Ambassador Ahmed Ali Abdullah Saleh for the help he is offering for this district. They targeted the district here as part of their aid program, as they can see the severe need of people and how all the humanitarian organizations are ignoring them since the beginning of the displacement.
The elders, widows, and those stranded in the empty quarter desert due to war and displacement are the target of the aid project provided by El Saleh Foundation, as everyone in this desert struggles to survive.
Citizens in Al Jawf are dispersed in the governorate. We exerted huge efforts to distribute the aid and to make sure it reaches those who need it the most. Elders, children and widows were benefited from the organization's project. We want to direct our appreciation and gratitude to Ambassador Ahmed Ali Abdullah Saleh for the aid he is providing through this organization. A Saleh Charity Foundation has a great history of charity work and humanitarian assistance.
The project of El Saleh Social Foundation remains a seed of hope for the displaced people, planted by its organizers throughout the country, at a time when the relief organizations did not even make an effort to visit these displaced people, and the organizations limited the assistance they provide within the walls of the city of Ma'rib. It has been and still unable to meet the needs of a single camp in the governorate. So the hope remains that the humanitarian organizations will continue their relief work and follow the example of Al Saleh Foundation in extending a helping hand to the poor, displaced people and their families during the time of war.
Coming next. As Eid sets in, people in Aden resent over the high prices of clothes across the country.
احنا نزحنا للمخيم ذا قدام 3 سنوات ونزحنا من الحرب، وقعت بيننا عندنا في القرية اشتباكات عنيفة. الأمان مش أمان الحرب، الأمان إنك معك بر في بيتك، معك مصروف، تكون مأمن نفسك داخل بيتك أنت وعيالك. الجوع خلانا نفكر كثير، ما يكون البر موجود وكل شيء موجود، ترقد وأنت آمن مرتاح، ما يكون ما فيش، من أن ترقد؟
Welcome back. Yemeni people struggle with high prices of clothes and food supplies, especially as Eid is a few days ahead. This report has more details.
The city of Aden is witnessing an insane and exaggerated rise in price of Eid clothes due to the absence of control over wholesalers, who exploit citizens and manipulate the slight decrease of local currency in light of the increase of hard currency. The citizen remains lost in front of the merchants' fraud against them, as the prices of children's clothing per piece has reached 20,000 riyals and more, which has worsened the situation for the citizen who was unable to provide the basic things.
We call on the government to reduce prices for Adani people. As citizens here are suffering high prices in all aspects of life, including food and clothes, as local currency is decreasing and prices are remaining the same.
Due to the absence of merchants' offices, whom should determine the prices of clothes, citizens' complaints were not void of shop owners' complaints that wholesalers manipulate the price of clothes, as prices are raised in hard currency without taking into consideration the condition of the citizen who lacks a decent life.
Prices remain the same due to merchants' manipulation, so we urge authorities to observe all these manipulators. It is their duty to monitor them and protect us from their greed. We try to decrease the prices, but the Saudi currency has raised too, which prevented us from doing so. Our income has decreased too, due to people's living condition and their inability to purchase.
And now it's time for a question that needs an answer. For how long the citizen will continue to swallow the bitterness of deteriorating economic conditions and the high prices of Eid needs, including clothes and others, as scenes can deceive the observer that, despite the crowded markets with citizens, most of them cannot buy anything, as a result of the hard living conditions due to the ongoing war and the collapse of local currency.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Last-minute dispute between the government and Houthi militia cancels the first commercial flight in years to Sana'a airport. Houthi militia continues to violate the UN truce on different fronts. A Saleh Charity Foundation distributes humanitarian aid for displaced people in Al Jawf Governorate. This is the end of the news. It was Shaza Abdelbei. Thank you for watching.